Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show we're talking about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Blindspot as well as the latest episode of the Blacklist. Like always, if I'm talking about something you want to listen to, you can always look at the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Blindspot, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of the Blacklist. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Blindspot. There's a lot of interesting things that went down in this episode, so let's break them down. First and foremost, the fact is we finally learned what that key was belonged to. And it's interesting because Jane talks about the fact is basically it's all these different hideouts that Shepard had, Sandstorm hideouts. And basically, I guess her and Roman, and I'm assuming anyone is from Sandstorm, but probably more so Remy and Roman, were meant to learn which keys went to which hideout, and they ended up confiscating a lot of stuff. And the thing is, for her, it's like this treasure trove of like memories and stuff like that, because especially now that all her memories, like her and Remy's memories, are like one and the same now. Like every time she's walking through the room looking at different things, it's triggering all these memories. It's just little fragments at first, but it's just kind of sending her brain in overdrive. And she sees that blanket, and I was like, I wonder what the significance of that is. And it's like, it's a reminder of like the one sweet moment Shepard has. Like, it's kind of crazy that when you listen to Shepard, she always talked about her kind of being like a mother to them and everything, and you kind of go like, nah, you weren't. You had your own ambitions and goals, but when you look at the whole situation with the blanket, it's like, oh no, like that was like Remy being cold, and she cuddled up with Shepard, and it's almost kind of like and I think it makes probably Jane feel weird, because it's like for so long she looked at Shepard as like a monster, and so for her it's like probably remembering such a sweet moment kind of just bothers you a little bit, because now she's gone, but at the same time it's like, once again, she wasn't like a real mother to you, so it probably leaves you a little conflicted. Jane didn't really talk about it, but I think it probably does, especially for her, because back then it's like one of her happiest memories, which is super messed up once again because it involves Shepard, the one who basically kind of turned her life upside down, turned her into the bad person that she was, at the very least when it came to Remy. And so, and it was interesting too, because she was like, I think this was supposed to be like a memory room. That the point is, like, when my memories get restored and when my mission is complete, I'm supposed to come here as Remy, like Jane, and remember everything as Remy. But then at the same time, it's like, well, what if there's actually more to it? It's like, there's actually, maybe it's just Shepard trying to torture her or whatever. But now in retrospect, I'm like, because we saw at the end of the episode, someone got to the room before they did. I'm assuming, has that come up before, whether or not Shepard has any other kids? Like maybe she has like biological kids, because you would assume like if anyone's going to know about it, it'd have to be someone that was part of Sandstorm. So it's like either someone that's still around, but we kind of saw the end of Sandstorm earlier this season. So I'm thinking like, not unless it's someone that Remy contacted, but you would think, because Jane has access to all of Remy's memories, so she'd know all the stuff that Remy did. She remembers all of that. But so it has to be someone that Shepard, so it was another kid that she raised in secret, that she had planted out there, that maybe even Roman and Remy weren't aware of. Or maybe, like I said, I would assume it had to be like her biological kid or something, like she must have abandoned her family and stuff like that. But I don't remember if that ever came up before, whether or not she actually had kids of her own, because we do know she had a life before the whole Sandstorm situation. So it could be a kid that maybe she gave up for adoption, that she was reaching out for, like, oh, you're going to carry out my will. But whatever it was, that might have been what was meant for Remy to find. It's just that other person, this potential other child, in this whole family situation, probably found it before Remy did. And like, they got the specific item, but the thing is, there was something in there specifically for her to find. Because that is the thing, because if it was simply about like trying to trigger her memories, like why would she still have that emotion? To be fair, maybe it was something that was set up well in advance and she never canceled it, but now it's like, well, because there was probably a deeper meaning for it. But nevertheless, it's going to be interesting to find out what that ends up being about. But I love that does play a part in this episode, the whole aspect of like, oh yeah, like your past coming back to kind of haunt you. And I think that's an interesting story that we're delving into. Whether it's going to be like a bigger arc for the remainder of the season or not is yet to be seen. But for Jane, she even talks about it later on, she felt like she can compartmentalize. It's like, okay, here I am as Jane. Yes, I remember everything as Remy, but everything Remy involved was Remy. I can separate that. That's not who I am. That's not my life. Well, the mission they end up going on, which obviously I'll talk about in a little bit, but they ended up she running into a dude named Cameron Gibbs, and it turns out, which interesting enough, that's the actor who played Kurt in the TV show Banshee, which is interesting on many different levels, because the actor who plays Kurt in the show he was in a show called Strike Back, which was also on Cinemax with Banshee, but also Tristy Kelly Dunn. She was in who plays Allie in this. She was on, Banshee as well as Siobhan. What's also interesting, if I remember correctly, it might have been this show or maybe it was something else, but I think it was something else. I was about to say, because I could have sworn Matt Servito popped up in the show, but I think I might be thinking of him in something else. I'm not sure. I think it's me thinking of him in something else. Yeah, I think it was like an episode. Nevertheless, I'm going on a tangent. I just think it's like the interconnections like that's just interesting to me. But nevertheless, and it's so interesting because this guy, Cameron, he recognizes Remy. He's like, hey, you know, it's like we have this connection. It's like, oh, I think of you as my friend. And it's sad when you find out the truth about him. It's like he was a military dude. He was a family man. And then his life got turned upside down because he got, you know, dishonorably discharged because it's like, oh, he stole some files. When in actuality, it was Remy. Because she was trying to, you know, because that was the whole plan. Shepard wanted her to use him to get access to these files they needed. But the whole aspect of like using him and manipulating him was all on Remy, because Remy saw like, oh, his hate towards the military. It's like, we can use this. It wasn't Shepard's idea. That was her own idea to tell Shepard like, hey, we could use him. And so she manipulated him because basically his entire family turned their back on him because no one believed him. He was like, I didn't do this, but, you know. And so that's why he's been causing, for years, he's been attacking like military places and stuff like that, because it's him getting pissed at the military because basically the military ruined his entire life in his mind, because it's like they dishonorably discharged me. My family didn't even believe me when I said I didn't do it. Like it brought shame upon him, and it just all that anger, and then like Remy weaponizing it. I mean, we even saw that with Borden. Like they weaponized his hate and got him kind of involved in all of this too, you know. So it's kind of that same mentality. And that's such a hard thing for Remy to deal with, because she even tried to, like, because obviously it's like, no. The military didn't do this to you. I did this to you. So you want to take your hate out on anyone? Take it out on me. Because she's like, look at me. I changed. You still have the opportunity to change. It's not too late. You know? And that's hard, because for her, it's like, he ended up dying in the end, but for her, it's like, I set him on this path. The fact of the matter is, who knows what kind of life he could have led. He could have led a normal life. All those, because for her, it's like all those deaths, the deaths that were about to happen now because of this new device he was about to use, not only would those have been on her, but everything he's done over the years is on her, because she's the one that set him in motion. And that's a heavy-ass burden to bear. And that's why I think that's going to be an interesting development if what they take the series in that route of like her having to, because like, if there's a lot more stuff that Remy did that's still kind of escalating, coming down the pipeline, that maybe it's like there's a lot of people that she radicalized that, you know, he might not be the only one. And so Jane she thought she was done with her past, but her past is Remy has a terrible knack of coming back to bite her in the ass in some shape or form, especially now. And it's like, that's something heavy, because for her, it's like, I wish I could just forget, you know? And that's a lot to kind of have to carry on your conscience about all of that. So that's one side of things. I do love, like, obviously, like, Dave showing up, and they're like, call me Dave. And even him making a comparison to this whole, because obviously this is all about a nuclear device that was stolen. Well, it was plutonium that was stolen that could be used for a nuclear device, and the whole thing about the casing and stuff like that. It's like, this is like mixing of chocolate and peanut butter. Like, was it like some dangerous chocolate with some radioactive peanut butter? You see, we have, you know, the plutonium is the radioactive peanut, and Reva's like, okay, we got it. You don't need to kind of break it down like that. Freaking Dave, I love him, because even when Patterson and him were kind of undercover, and she's like, this is my ticket back, he's like, I'm the muscle. It's like, well, which one is it? He goes, you know, she's like, he likes to joke. He's like, yeah, but he's like, you know, I've been going to the gym. I can be the muscle if I wanted to. I'm just like, because you could tell Dave was nervous, and I just love his reaction to that situation. And Reed's like, man, you got to keep it together, Dave. And then Dave's kind of like, and then Patterson kind of makes it seem like, yeah, he's a tech dude, he's kind of smart, but essentially kind of, you know, saying he does drugs and stuff like that. The reason why he's kind of acting the way he does, and he just goes, and then even Dave being like, oh wow, this is literally what he made such a point to be like, can you do over 57, you know, tampering with these devices and stuff like that? He's like, I can do 58. And then everyone kind of pauses and just looks at him like what? And then it just so happens that the device in particular is like, oh, that's the one of the devices he doesn't know how to handle. So that was interesting. And he's just kind of, oh wow. And Patterson's like, this is literally not a type of situation to find ourselves in. So It was a very interesting development and addition to it. I kind of even loved it. Dave was like, "Oh man, taking down Greta is going to be great. Great for my career." I mean, he's like, obviously it'd be great for all of us. It's like, glad to see where your head is at with this whole situation, Dave. I love it. Another thing I really liked about this episode is the fact is Rich has created a board game based off all this. I even love it later on that he uses it to explain everything, and Dave's like, "Why am I the peanut?" He's like, "Because you're not part of the team." He's like, "Right. Saving me for the expansion. That's smart." You almost have them be like, "Okay, sure thing, Dave." I love that. Which is kind of funny to think about. What would the expansion be for Blindspot? Well, for the game. Did he ever give it a name? Maybe he did, and I don't remember him giving it a name. It'd be kind of interesting if that's how they end up tying that back together. So like, we'll call the game Blindspot. It could be funny if they did that. I don't think he ever gave it a name within the episode. Maybe he did, and I just missed it, but I do love that he turned it into a board game. That's so good, and he's showing it off to everybody. It's like, he's like, "Oh, I get to play Jane, so Jane, you get to play me." I love Kurt being like, "Why am I so much shorter than Patterson?" Also, Patterson's like, "Why do I have a melted face?" It's like, come on, guys, this isn't the scale and stuff like that. They're prototypes and stuff like that. He's even about to get the game started and stuff like that. It's weird, yet even Jane's like, "Yeah, it's a little weird, but hey, it's still pretty cool," which it is. I'm like, I love that he did it, and like I said, using it to kind of orchestrate the plan like that too. I even love when he does fix it later on. It's like, "Oh yeah, side note, yeah, I fixed the face and everything, but Patterson, you're still taller than Weller." So then I just love that. So that was pretty neat. And then there's another interesting side of this thing, and that's the whole Reed and Tasha situation, still going after Madeline. And lo and behold, who wakes up? Freaking Keaton. I'm like, what? Didn't expect that to kind of happen. I figured it might happen, but I thought it'd be like they were desperate, they had no other choice, and then Keaton would wake up. And it's like, oh, it kind of happened anyway. It just happened earlier than I kind of expected it to. But it's like, lo and behold, Keaton's awake. And he's like, wow, Kid, I would not want to be in your shoes right now. Kind of the shitty situation Tasha's found herself in. But luckily, Keaton kept a flash drive with proof that hey, you were doing everything on my orders, so it'll clear your name. And Tasha was reluctant to use it because all of it paints Keaton in a terrible light. It's like, the fact of the matter is she was following my orders. This was all on me. Basically giving Tasha a pass, but it would fall back on him. Because the interesting thing is, when she went to pick up the flash drive, she saw Keaton's life. It's like, oh, he has his family and everything. And even Reed's like, oh, Keaton has a family, man. I guess there is a bit of human. And that's the thing. Keaton's always flip-flop, because it's like, we've seen his human side from time to time, but also at the same time, it's like, yeah, he's kind of been a dick a lot of times we've seen him, but, And, this situation kind of makes him look even more like a dick. But it hit Tasha because it made her realize, it's like, in this situation, we never really think about the fact is of, how our actions are going to affect other people. She didn't at the time think what the ramifications would be, how it would affect the people around her. Because I think for her, she didn't think about what that really meant for her and Reed. She kind of did, but I think she didn't really think about it. And but Tasha's like, no, we're going to get Madeline, and we're going to put ourselves in a situation where we both get cleared from this, because she's not going to feel right for him taking the fall for it just to save her. It's like, no, we're so that's kind of neat to see Tasha do that. And even Reed's kind of okay with it. But I love that conversation where Keaton was like, oh yeah, it was personal. It was the reason why I didn't involve you, because you would have been the one person to be able to talk Tasha out of doing this. And Reed's like, Tasha, she's stubborn. She follows her own way. She would have never. And it's like, no, you would have been able to. Your words carry more weight than you want to admit. And I think on some level that. And that makes me think back to the episode where Tasha was like, it doesn't matter if you had said anything, I would have went anyway. It's like, in retrospect now, it's like, no. Now that Keaton said that, it's like, no. I think if Reed had said something back then before you went to join the CIA, you wouldn't have left. Even if especially if he had been like, I want you to stay for me, which obviously he didn't want to because he didn't want to be selfish. But I think to make him feel better, I think she lied and said oh, I wouldn't. And it's like, no, she would have stayed, especially if he had said it was for him, It would have given her even more reason to stay. I even love that's the reason why, Rich made the game. It's like, hey, he wants to unveil it because it's like to commemorate the fact is, hey, we're a family again. Jane's no longer evil and Tasha's no longer pretending to be evil. It's like, yeah, we're back together again. So I love that. So, but I'm very interested to see where all this is going to take us going forward into the next episode. Obviously, the big thing of who was that mystery person that went to Shepard's place before them. So, and what does this mean going forward for Jane? Obviously, like I said, that just seems like it is probably more aspects of hey, the past coming back to haunt you in some shape or form. So it's going to be interesting to see what the next episode has in store for us. And now moving on to this week's episode of The Blacklist, a great episode. A lot of stuff went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, like the whole situation with Aram learning about Samar's situation was, whoa, that's crazy. Crazy way to kind of finally find out about it. And like he realizes like she's been keeping this the entire time, but also learning like she's just trying to learn how to manage her symptoms, because not her symptoms, her condition, because there's no reversing it. The damage has already been done. And, he wants to do whatever he can. Obviously, when they're on the mission, which I'll kind of get to later on, he goes, no, like, obviously, like, you should kind of stay back with me. But she's like, no, I'm the more qualified person. I speak all these different languages. So, yeah, I'm going to be out in the field. He's like, right. Because even I love Russell being like, do you want me to get you to a room or something? Or do you want to go rob a bank, essentially? And he apologizes for it later on, and then Russell walking by again, fine, I'll book the room for you. But it is a serious situation, because like even he's looking at some thrown away like reports, and it's like, oh, like there's a lot of mistakes that she's made, even like on a simple level of just spelling things wrong, like realizing like her condition is way worse than it seemed like it was. Like, and I'm sure like, because Aram was kind of like, okay, like I'll put my issues aside, because like obviously you're very capable in what you're doing, but now he realizes like things were much worse than he thought. And it's because obviously it's a person you love, it's his fiance and everything, so obviously it's going, you're going to worry, So, and Samar, being who she is, tries to stay calm, cool, and collected. It's actually kind of interesting what she had said earlier about Reddington doing the episode. She's like, honestly, him potentially dying actually shocked, because she's like, for such a long time, like after everything Reddington's been through, he's always come out the victor on top. So it's like, I always, thought of him as invincible. So it's kind of crazy to think that he might actually die now. But Liz and Dembe are going to try and track down the bank account, the owner of this bank account, so they can stop this conspiracy. Because they stop this conspiracy, they bring it to the president's attention. It's like, hey, he has no choice but to stay, Reddington's execution. Because it's like, hey, he uncovered this plot showing his worth to the country and everything like that. So Liz wanted to be only her and Dembe, but Cooper told the rest of the team too. I love it. And she's like, no, I will handle this. She's like, for Dembe and me, Red is our family. And Samar's like, and we're yours. I'm like, it made me kind of go, like, it's just like sweet sentiments or stuff like that, because they are a family, and it's like, we're in this together and stuff like that. I love Haran being like, Edward, wheels up in 5. He's like, I always wanted to say that. But then it's like, yeah, we got some idea of a plan and stuff like that, and them working together like that. I thought it was kind of interesting. I even love that during it, Aram dropped the keys in the toilet. He come out with his arms wet after everything, because they were trying so hard to buy time and everything. And everyone's looking at him. He's like, don't ask. I'm surprised that didn't come back in any shape or form. I mean, like, hopefully he was able to dry them off. It's actually interesting, because that's the second time he's gotten something like wet in this episode. Obviously, first Samar's phone that led to that situation, and now dropping that drive into the toilet like that. That was so interesting. But getting right to the meat and potatoes of this episode, we find out that the lady that's working with the Corsican, all this like assassin plot and stuff like that, this part of conspiracy, she's a government official. She works in like the Justice Department, and lo and behold, her name's Hannah, which I gotta look that up. That actress, it kept bugging me the entire episode. I'm like, she looks so familiar, but I can't place what I remember her from. It bothered the hell out of me the entire episode, so I gotta look that up. But it didn't click in my head, and like obviously it seems like, oh, she's doing all this and she's blocking the whole like Reddington thing at any chance she gets. Like, oh no, Reddington, no, if there's a conspiracy, you'll unravel it. The FBI is very capable, blah blah blah, and it's like you're neck deep in all this, so of course you want Reddington dead. And then we find out the president's involved in this, and then it clicked in my head because I'd completely forgot it, and I was like, right, the president's connected to the cabal and all that stuff. Like, I mean, we haven't dealt with that in a while, because that was like season 3 and stuff, wasn't it, that he got elected? Because I forgot, like, the cabal was the ones who kind of put everything in motion to make sure that he ended up getting elected and stuff like that. So he's part of this thing. This whole thing, this whole cabal, it's got to be behind this whole thing, if I'm remembering correctly. Because wasn't her name the one that wrestler accidentally killed? She was the one that was talking to him. It's like, she's one of the few people that probably could have ended up tying this to him in some shape or form. But it's just interesting, because the cabal has always been in the background, and we just haven't, like I said, the last time we really dealt with them was in season 3, because that was at their peak, because they were trying to, like, that was when Reddington and Liz were on the run and everything. So It's kind of interesting. What I also thought was kind of fascinating about all of this too is Liz is worried too, because it's like Reddington might actually die, and for her it's like this might be her only opportunity to get answers. But Wrestler's like, at the end of the day, know that no matter what, he's someone that loves you, you know? I mean, once again, everything Reddington's ever done has been for her sake. And so for her, but it's like the fact of the matter is she wants to, you know, but who is the man? Like, she's like, this might be my only chance to get these answers, or they die with him. Because if they die, there's a good chance Dembe won't ever tell her, because it's like those are Reddington's secrets and they'll go to the grave. So she's hoping at the very least, hey, with this potentially being his end, at the very least, maybe he'll be willing to tell me the answers, you know, right here at his deathbed. And so she does go sit down and talk to him. His final meal is actually something his mom used to make. And him and Liz had this sweet moment, because he actually talks a little bit about his family, like his mom, you know, just the way she kind of viewed people in the world. And the thing is, his dad was kind of a, you know, excommunicated him, because his dad never tried to understand him, because he was like, I was kind of like, you know, I had issues as a kid and stuff like that, and no one tried to understand. Like, the world saw me one way and I saw myself another, and his dad never tried to understand him and excommunicated him. Makes you wonder, is that to kind of represent the fact that he might have come from an Amish background or something like that? I mean, just because he used the term excommunicate, I mean, I guess it's just kind of like, you're dead to me, you're dead to our family type of situation, maybe. So it makes me think of that. Or at least maybe he came from a very religious, because it's like his dad was very moralistic as in a sense, but that just kind of makes me think maybe something Amish, but maybe that's not the case at all. I don't know. But because the way he talks about it, because it sounds like a situation where his mom didn't necessarily have the power, and I think in that situation, like, the male authority is kind of more authoritative, like they have more of the power in that situation. Once again, this is me talking from ignorance, so I do apologize. I'm not that familiar. This is just based on, because like my only experience ever really seeing that is like, you know, televised stuff. You know, I don't know how true it is, but it's kind of interesting because I made reference to Banshee when I was talking about Blindspot. That kind of also plays a part. You know, that's where my mind goes to about this whole situation too. But I'm wondering, is it kind of like a similar situation that, you know, Rebecca from Banshee, what's her name? Her character's name? Lily Simmons' characters. I'm pretty, yeah, it was. It's been a while. But nevertheless, yeah. Like her background situation, same thing with Kai. If anything, which is interesting because the actor who played Kai had, you know, popped up in the Blacklist. So it's like, it might be a more similar situation to Kai, you know? That's what I'm kind of thinking. But nevertheless, like I said, it could be completely wrong, that it could just be in the context of just like, I was dead to my family, or at the very least to him. But nevertheless, actually hear him talk like that, and for him it's like, he's like, I did all this stuff, you know, I've gathered up all this money, this power and stuff like that for you, but at the end of the day, rather than being this criminal I should have been more like my mom, because my mom would have taken one look at you and knew that you were okay, because, like, because he's like, you're surrounded by people who love you, who are willing to do anything for you. He's like, 6 years ago, I turned myself in to the FBI for you, but now I can leave this world knowing like you're taken care of. You're surrounded by this family that loves you and will always protect you. It's kind of like, I didn't have to worry about it. And I was like, that was such a beautiful sentiment, and you seeing it hit Liz to the point she can't even ask him what she wanted to ask him, because I think if this was going to be his last day, like, it's like, no, I think there's two things to think about it. One way is like, she doesn't need those answers anymore, because it's like, the fact is, I don't want your last memories of this whole situation, if you do go away, you know, you die, that, you know, me hurting you in the end. I want you to kind of go with peace in some shape or form. But I think the other part is, it's like, it doesn't matter. Kind of like Wrestler said, it's like, you love me, and for me, that's all that matters, you know? And she said something that actually shocked me. She's like, I love you. And even Reddington was like, whoa. Because Liz has never said that. Even in the time since season 5, knowing he was her dad, he didn't know. Because, like, you know, like I said, you know, it's so interesting that those words come out, because it made her appreciate him and realize, like, because no matter who he is, I think she saw into his heart in that moment, and it made her see him for who he really is, a caring man. Like, no matter what the circumstances are, he did all this for me, and I love you for it. And it's just like, it breaks your heart, because it's like, it's so beautiful. And like I said, because she's never said that before. And so it was a powerful moment, dude. And you know, all the while they're trying to save, you know, the Ziggler official ladies trying to save her, but then it's like she ends up dying, and then Cooper pieces it together, because it's like she died by the bug. It's like Reddington saw this all coming, because he had us go after the Blacklister with the bugs and everything. And so, dude, and it seems like this is like, because she ended up stumbling across a larger conspiracy because an MI6 agent came to her about it, but they're keeping the dossier and stuff like that under wraps because they don't know who they can trust, because once again, this is dealing with the cabal. We're dealing with people all over the place, and it's just sad that like everything that they were trying to do, it kind of, for one, they weren't able to save Ziegler, and it turned, obviously, like there's this greater plot, because even Reddington was like, when it's all said and done, the fact is you need to focus on this larger conspiracy. That's all that matters. Even with things kind of turning out the way they are, he's still telling Liz to try to do the right thing. It's like that in itself speaks volume. It's like at this point, it's not going to benefit him anymore, and he's still warning about this because no matter what the circumstances are, like he might have done a lot of terrible things, but you know, once again, he tried to clear the real Reddington's name by being like, oh, he wasn't a traitor. You know, amongst all the things Reddington had done, he wasn't a traitor. He was kind of pushed into that situation, manipulated in that situation, you know? So, and just to kind of see Liz and Dembe there at the end. And there was also that moment earlier in the episode, too, where like Reddington had snapped at the dude. It's like, oh, you want to know if I'm allergic to the stuff that's going to kill me? They're like, we want to make this as peaceful as possible. He grabs a dude. It's like the fact of the matter is, when you want to kill somebody, just be straight up about it. Don't lie. Like, you know, try to do these pleasantries or trying to make it peaceful and stuff like that. You know, you owe them that. But him ends apologizing later on because it's like, yes, it's a heavy burden having to kill somebody, you know, and most people can't do it. And, you know, I think the guy kind of accepted his apology a little bit to a certain extent. But we see time clicking down and he's looking at Liz and is like, do you have any final words? As like, does he? I don't know, you know? It's going to be interesting. Will he actually say anything or not? And I wonder if there's a piece of Liz that's wondering if he actually will, or is she just, I think she's kind of just, you know, taking herself to the point of being like, okay, I accept it. But will Reddington, like, I think there's a part of him that's like, do I tell her the truth? Like, I've been hiding it the entire time. It's like, this might be my last moment. I need to tell her the truth. I honestly, like, it's creeping to that point. I'm like, I hope things can change, but the president's not going to change his mind because for him, it's like, for them, it's better off if Reddington's dead because he's the only one with the intel to be able to stop all this. And it's like their plans are too far in motion for them to let him stop them at this point in time, you know? And once again, you got to know on some level, Liz does kind of feel terrible about this because an extra bonus level to this is the fact is she put Reddington in this situation. She wanted to know the truth so badly, and now it's come down to this. And she actually feels bad because, like, no matter what, she didn't realize it until, like, holy crap. Like I said, I'd always brought it up, but like maybe she's lying and stuff like that. But I don't think this is her playing or lying anymore. Like, this is her being sincere. Like, she's sad because, like, this, you know, once again, realizing that no matter what happens, whatever the truth may be, this is someone that has cared for her, done so much for her. And it's just kind of like, you're going to put him in a situation that ultimately led to his execution. And it's sad because even in the end, he tried to do the right thing. Like, obviously, he thought he had a backup plan, but he pleaded guilty because he thought when it was all said and done, he didn't want the task force to have to suffer because of him. Because we go back to it, it's like, because he wants the task force taken care of because they're important to Liz, they're important to him, which they kind of are anyway. You know, because he even tells Harold, it's like, you know, or, you know, you're a great man, you're a great friend. No matter how this situation plays out, you need to know that. No matter what my situation is, you are a good man and a good friend. And it's like in 1,000 years, you look at the beginning of this series, you would have never guessed that Cooper and Reddington would be the friends that they are. You know that Cooper would be bending over backwards to save Reddington. You never in your wildest mind would have thought that at the beginning of this series. It's just kind of, he's this terrible, bad person. He's a means to an end. But, you know, Cooper says that just to tell everyone else. But it's like, it's because he cares. Like, this is my friend. I don't want him to die, you know. And that is just a spectacular thing about this show. Like, this show has shifted so much from Reddington being this villain, this cold-blooded criminal mastermind, to realizing, like, he's just a man at the end of the day trying to protect the person he loves. And I guess at the end of the day, that's, I don't know, it just gives this show just keeps growing and changing and adding layers to it, that there's so much depth to this show, and I just cannot give it enough credit for just constantly spiraling and creating this ever expansive narrative in this regard. You know, like I said, this episode just hits you because you're like, I'm kind of getting a little teary-eyed at the end. I was like, come on, Red, you got one more trick up your sleeve. It's like, it's a guy who's injecting you, or like, have the injection has been messed with? Is this going to be like some, like, fake your death like Liz did back in season 3 type of thing, or what? I don't know. The sincerity in everything he's saying just makes me think even he thinks this is the end. And time, like I said, time is running out, and there's no way. I mean, maybe if Cooper brings this to their attention, they might feel like we have to save Reddington because we got to find out maybe what else he knows or whatever. I mean, because there's also the dossier that's missing too. Like, obviously the agent's supposed to take the Corsian to it, but obviously I'm sure I'm so interested in seeing what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good